Hey folks, Evil DM here. We're back with another episode of Idols and Efreeti's INE 1ED&D Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. I am Vince, the Evil DM, and this week we're going to talk about another class. We're going to talk about the Monk. I had a couple people ask me, can you talk to me about the Monk and explain to me the abilities of the Monk and how the Monk exactly works, and why is it what are some of the traits of the monk, and is the monk worth playing? Is there any way you could fix the monk? Not a lot of people play the monk based on the player handbook or by the book because it's a little bit difficult to do levels 1 through 5, and you're kind of a little bit of a wimp, so to speak. But when you start gaining 6th level and up is when you become a superstar. So first things first, you're going to want to flip open your player's handbook to just kind of look along with me onto page 30 is where it starts. And we're talking about the book that looks like this. The standard book like that. So we're going to start with that. So let's switch over to the book so you can see it with me while I am about it. All right. So first things first, you're going to notice that to qualify for this class is kind of difficult because the monk, you need a minimum of strength of 15, a wisdom of 15, a dexterity of 15, and a constitution 11. And of course, with these couple of things that are such high in stats, there's no experience point bonus. Like, some classes get a 10%, 5%, whatever, 50% bonus depending on the class. You don't get that. Another thing here, dexterity bonuses. No, don't even count against your armor class. We'll talk about that in a second. You can only be a human with this. That's the only thing. Monks may only be humans. So, along with those kind of restrictions, there's a little bit more into it. So, you can only be lawful in alignment. Much like a paladin has to be lawful good, you can only be lawful. If you stray away from being lawful, you lose all your monk abilities until you can atone or redeem yourself somehow through the Dungeon Master's eyes or through maybe some type of quest from the Grand Master. Things like that you could try. You can't wear any armor whatsoever. You can't use any shields whatsoever. You have a D4 hit dice. Though, at first level, you roll it twice, so basically your hit points are anywhere from 2 to 8. Plus your constitution modifier, depending. So it can be anywhere. But minimum without that is 2 to 8. And then for your 2-hit chart, you roll as a thief. You also roll your saves as a thief. You have no spell capabilities whatsoever. Kind of sucks, right? And you can't use any type of flaming oils, like if you want to do a Molotov cocktail or you want to just do some type of bomb with the oils. No, you can, applying it onto something. No. Another one that bothers a lot of people is no strength modifiers with your 2-hit. Monks do not gain any bonuses either with respect to increasing 2-hit probability or to increase hit of damage for strength ability. Kind of stinks. Your armor class starts at 10 and stays at 10 and decreases every level by 1. So even if you have a high dexterity, doesn't matter. You don't get that bonus whatsoever. Though, I may say this, that you can, if you're being attacked by a range, such as by like an arrow, a bolt, a bullet, a thrown dagger, a thrown javelin, a thrown spear, you can dodge each one of them by rolling a save versus petrification. And every one of those, you can narratively say that you're dodging out of the way as a monk, or you're knocking them aside, like when you see the old kung fu movies when they, bash a spear out of the air, or they take it and they break it, things like that, you could say. Also, another thing to note about monks, that a monk, whenever you make a saving throw for, say, something like a fireball or maybe an acid splash, something that says take full damage or save for half, when you save, you'll just take no damage instead of taking the half damage. So that's kind of cool. And at 9th level, you automatically start taking the half damage automatically. So as opposed to having full damage and then save for taking no damage, you'll just take either the half damage automatically or you just get no damage depending on if you make your save at all. So it is kind of cool. So, remember when I said there's no bonuses to hit or damage whatsoever? Well, you do get a bonus damage starting at first level, and it's kind of confusing how they list it here. So I'm just going to go over it, and it's right here, halfway down the page. I'll kind of highlight it right here in the purple that you can see, or like a bluish color. So basically, every level you gain a half a hit point of damage to add on to your damage total. So I usually do it as, because you really don't add halves to damage, because either you round up or you round down. So every 2 levels you add +1 to your damage when you use a weapon only. So, alright, yeah, that kind of stinks. What weapons can I use? Okay. Bow, stick, club, crossbow, dagger, hand axe, javelin, joystick, polearm, staff, and spear. Alright. But you also have an open hand combat damage. So you basically know some style of open hand combat, kind of like, like a monk knows martial arts. And that starts at 1d3, which kind of stinks, but because you don't get any bonuses to that, but you do. As you can see, it goes up in level all the way up to like 8 to 32. So you're doing a total of 48 at that point. So it does have its, as you see, you get up in level, you get more and more stuff. It does take a lot of experience points, probably more than, if offhand I'm thinking, than the magic user, but I think it's worth it overall. At first level, you pretty much are surprised the same way as a normal person, but that chance goes down drastically starting every level. It's like 2%. I mean, so why not? Until you basically can't get surprised at one point, and I don't really low chance. Your movement rate will increase every level, starting at 15 and going to 16, 17, until you're like this superstar monk, like flying around. Your number of attacks will start to increase when you hit 4th level, 5 for 4. Now what that basically means is you get 5 attacks over 4 rounds at 4th level, which means the first round you'd have 1 attack, the second round you would have 2 attacks, the third round you'd have 3 attacks, and then on the 4th round you'd have, at the beginning, you'd have 4 attacks, and then at the very end of that round you'll have your 5th attack. That's generally how those things work. You always get those at the very end. So it's kind of cool that way. Starting through third level through 13th level, you do gain some abilities, and I'm not going to go over every one of them. As you can see here on the chart, it's A through K, and they're pretty standard reads, except there's a couple that some people had a little bit of a confusion on. And at 7th level, you gain, this one I'm going to point out in particular, at 7th level, which is E here, you gain the ability to heal hit points. And it starts at 2 to 5 points of damage, increasing the bracket by 1 each additional level, and you only can do this once per day. So what this means is it goes from 2 to 5, basically 1d4 plus 1, to now becoming 3 to 6 at 8th level, and then 4 to 7 at 9th level, and then 5 to 8 at 10th level. Or, I mean, if you really are confused by that, you could do, as it has in parentheses here, 1d4 plus 1, and just keep adding a plus 1 to that end, so it becomes 1d4 plus 1, 1d4 plus 2, 1d4 plus 3, 1d4 plus 4. You could do it that way, or you could do it the other way. You do it whatever way makes you happy. At 9th level, you gain a somewhat magical resistance, or like a 50% chance to resist pretty much the ability of things like charm and enchantment, like spells and ability, things like that. Now, it increases by 5% every level, going downwards. So the lower, the better. So you will have a better chance of resisting when you were to roll that. Of course, if they get past your resistance, your saving throw still applies in the situation. If you play with psionics, which I really don't, and I don't actually like psionics in 1st edition, it's also very hard to become any bit psionics at all. So, but if you do, you at 10th level, you get to have telepathic and mind blast attacks, and they're made as if your character had an intelligence of 18. So maybe we'll go over that later on and how to do that, but we did cover that on Roll for Initiative many years ago, the psionic abilities and how they worked, and it was mostly led by Jason on that show, because I've never played with them. I mean, I've tried, and it always made me feel like I was playing a Star Wars game and I was a Jedi. So I didn't really like it. Most of the people I played with didn't like it either. I don't know many people that do. I know in 2nd edition they made it a lot more interesting and easier and nicer to play with the Splat book, but I don't really know. I didn't play much 2nd edition. I kind of skipped a lot of 2nd edition. I was mostly stuck on 1st. I did do a lot of hybrid 1E, 2E things, so it just kind of really depends on what you want to do. Now, 13th level is one that some people have found a little confusing how it works, and let me get over to that. Now, this is the one that we call the Finger of Death. We used to joke about it, or call the Death Punch 2000. Basically, it's the Quivering Palm. So, the monk declares that he's using the Quivering Palm. The Quivering Palm, he sets up this thing, and he has 3 rounds to use this, and he only can use this once a week because it's so deadly. So, basically, the monk will use this, and he will successfully hit his target within 3 rounds. And it doesn't affect undead or creatures that get hit by magic, first of all. The target cannot have more hit dice than the monk using it, or be more than 200% of the max, 200% more than of the monk's maximum hit points. That's fine. After the monk touches his target, he can declare this target dead at any point in time up to a number of days equal to his experience level when he first used the ability. So say he is 13th level. Okay, that's fine. Let's say he's let's go 15th level. He has 15 days from when he touches that target to say dead. Doesn't matter. He can do it anywhere he is at. Doesn't matter where he is. All he has to do is think it. And the vibrations go through the person's body and kill them. There is no save. There is nothing for this. Nothing. They're dead. That's why this is the last ability gained. Perhaps the most terrible power is the Fabled Attack, which enables the monk to set up vibrations in the body of the victim, and the monk can then control such vibrations as to cause death to occur when the monk stops them. This is known as the Quivering Palm. The monk merely touches his victim to set up a deadly vibration. The victim can be virtually any creature, with, the caveats I said. And this power has some limitations, which I read, but basically that is that power. It's not that difficult once you actually break it down and look at it. No saving throw. You have 3 rounds to do it. You have to declare that round. Say, I'm using my Quivering Palm. You have 3 rounds, melee rounds, to hit that person. When you hit that person, you have that many days going forward of your level to say dead. So, I don't know. You don't have to do it, but basically, if you miss and don't do it in the 3 rounds, it goes away. The power is drained. Also, if you don't command the person to die within your number of days, nothing happens to them. They don't die. It just goes away. So, more than likely, most people who use this ability are going to use this and be like, boom, dead on the big bad of your campaign. So, be careful. There's as long as your big bad has that, can only be hit by magical weaponry type thing going on, the monk can't do anything to him. But generally, a lot of people forget about that, and their big bad is dead. Okay, so there are some restrictions going on here with this class as well. So a monk may not possess more than 2 magical weapons or 3 other magical items at one time. So it's kind of like the paladin in a sense. Monks can use magical versions of weapons. They could use magical rings and miscellaneous magical items used by a thief. A monk may only possess enough money to support himself and his henchmen. Excess wealth has to be donated to a church worthy of it, unless he's saving money to build a stronghold, as we described below. And they go in through the whole followers and everything. You can only hire a certain amount of things, but you can read that yourself. It's pretty self-explanatory. One of the things that definitely we have to point out about the monk is that once you get above 7th level, the Superior Master, as we can see here, 8th level becomes Master of. So there can only be a certain amount of monks that hold this title. So there's not many monks going forward after 8th level, all the way up to the Grand Master. So basically there's only 3 of them, of Master of Dragons. And when a player character gains sufficient level of points to qualify him for 8th level, the 8th level abilities of this class are obtained. You get them temporarily, and you have to seek out this monk, the Master of Dragons, either the red, the white, the red, or the green. And you must fight him in a combat hand-to-hand without any weapons or magical items. When you defeat him, you obtain that rank and title going forward and must defend it should the DM throw someone else against you. But she really shouldn't all the time, but you never know. The loser of these combats loses enough experience points to place him at the lowest number possible to obtain the level just beneath the new level. So basically, you're dropping back down to 7th level with like 1 experience point over that 7th level. So you're going back down to 98,001. That's the lowest number you can possibly get for that level. And have to go all the way back up. That kind of sucks, but that's how it works. And of course, when you're going up in the 9th levels and higher, the loser of these combats, well, yeah, got that part done. So as soon as you obtain that level, your next thing is to automatically seek out, proceed to wherever these people are, which the book says you know where they are. I don't know how you know where they are. That doesn't really describe that. You can kind of, as a story point of view, you get an idea where these masters kind of are because they don't travel, supposedly. Or maybe you can say it's a sense that monks can sense other monks due to the spirituality of the world. Things like that. That's ways you could play it role-plays wise. But when you get to the Grandmaster of Flowers, I've always played it that there is only one Grandmaster of Flowers. He is the lead. He is the man. He is the one you're striving to get up to. He's the one you're striving to beat overall if you want that position. But, yeah, that's pretty much the monk right there. But, some things to help you along the way. There's nothing that says you can't use Bracers of Defense, because Bracers of Defense can be used by wizards. Wizards can't use armor. Nothing that says you can't use it. Thieves can use it. Why can't you? Rings of Protection. Why not? You can use those too. Those will help your armor quest at lower levels. Also, if you have a magic user in your group, beg them to cast armor on you, because that helps. You have an illusionist in the group? Phantom armor. There we go. There's some other suggestions there. Some house rules that I've applied over the years that kind of made it a little more appealing, a little more interesting. Of course, there is the monk that you can look at and the Oriental Adventures, which will blow your campaign out of the water if you use that class compared to the regular player handbook classes. Too powerful, but you can opt to use that. There was one in Dragon Magazine that attempted to fix it, but I've never used it. It was in the Best of Dragon Volume 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember using it over the years, and it really didn't work out that well, so we just kind of stuck with the basic class. Not many people even were appealed to play it. Whenever they thought about it, they thought about Kung Fu the Legend most of the time when we played it. But things I've done to fix it, Monk's hit dice, we would say, would go from a D4 to a D6. That gives them a little more padding and everything. Gives them a little more chance to stay alive. We also added in dexterity adjustment to armor class so that the dexterity would actually give them, monks may use their dexterity adjustment to AC or their effective armor class, whichever is more favorable for them. These may not stack. So if your dexterity and your armor class would give you less, so you're starting at first level, obviously it's going to give you a bonus, but when you're starting to get down to these lower levels, your armor class of 10 minus your dexterity is not going to be that great compared to these other numbers at the higher levels. You probably won't ever have a 4 or 5 or 6, things like that. So it's best to just use whatever works better, the two. Another thing that we used that was kind of more story related, and it fit more of the Kung Fu, monk, spirituality thing, was kind of like a mind over body thing. For every level the monk obtains, he is able to suppress the need for food and water and rest and sleep for that many days. Once the days are complete, the monk must then rest uninterrupted for 24 hours, only taking time to eat and drink to recover from the time that he had done his mind over body thing. And you can only do that once. The only time you have to wait a full 24 hours to use it again after you do your rest, and then you're allowed to do it again. So it's not that powerful and breaking and story-wise, and maybe you won't ever really use it, maybe you will, but I kind of felt a monk would need those abilities to do in the game. I mean, for story-wise, people kind of enjoy those things. Let me get back here to my ugly face. There we go. Cool. So that's basically a monk in the nutshell for you. Hopefully I've answered some of the questions that people were asking me about monks and how they are. Give you some suggestions how to make the monk a little bit better. You can always add things like to chew hit to their, based off their strength, to their weapons and their palm striking, making them a little more powerful. But, I mean, as they get up in level, starting at 6, they start becoming a little bit more and a little bit more badass. So it's really up to you how you want to run your game. You want to run it more powerful? Go ahead, go for it. You want to run it less powerful? Run it by the book. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, just remember you're playing the game and you're having fun. Your group agrees with you. So keep it old, original, and keep it old school. And good night, everybody.